All right, Jabosai. An incredible schus, Baruch Hashem, to be able to learn here with all of you. First of all, tremendous yashkach to Reb Tzvi for once again just providing such a beautiful. Oh, where's Steve? Steve's not here tonight. Steve's not here tonight. Okay, 1 second. Okay, our thank you to our sponsors tonight. Thank you to Baruch Meir Dubin for sponsoring tonight in honor of the birth of Chanon Bloch's new grandson, Yosef Zev. And also, tremendous yashkach to Ramat Marks for sponsoring in honor of the birth of Chanon Bloch's grandson, Yosef Zev, and Refuah Shlema for Henda Gittel Bas Chava Itka. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, first of all, this little boy, Mir Hashem, nothing more special than a little baby. Right? You always wonder, like, people get, it's so interesting to see, like, how even, like, rational, together, normal adults kind of often lose it in front of babies, right? They descend into silliness, into immaturity. And part of the beauty of that is because when you see a baby, you're just overwhelmed by just the potential. Like, the beauty of a baby is that baby could be anyone and anything. It's something so profound, something so beautiful. The beautiful part about being around a baby is that we remind ourselves that we too have the ability to be anyone and anything should we choose to activate our own personal potential. So this little boy, Yosef Zev ben Yisrael Shmuel. Amir Eretz Hashem Zeh HaKatan Gadol Yiyah Kishem Shenichnas Lebris Keyikanis the Torah Ulachupa Ulamaisim Tovim. Amen. And of course, we'll say again, all of the holy Yisrael should have refuah. We of course dedicate our learning in the schos of our holy soldiers who are Moser Nefesh for Am Yisrael, for Eretz Yisrael. That Ribbon Shalom should allow them to be successful. B'chol Ma'aseh Yadayim should allow them to come back to their families b'shalom, b'karov, and b'shleimus. Amir Hashem. Kadosh Baruch Hu should bring back all of our hostages. Allow them, give them the strength to be able to weather this overwhelming Gehenna that they are going through. And Amir Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu, be machzir them l'cheik mishpachosehem b'karov. And we'll say with that, let us begin. So we are going to Mir Hashem finish the Sefer tonight. I'm just checking the time. Right, so we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it to Mir Hashem. At least we're gonna get much closer to the end. Either we're gonna actually finish or get much closer to finishing. What's the rush? What's the rush? So we are picking up on the bottom of page 58. Bottom of page 58. So remember again that so now remember at this point, this is literally the conclusion. This is the conclusion. So this I've said that before, but this is really it. This is really it. So let's say, look how the Piagetna closes out the Sefer. The Rebbe says as follows. He says, Im hegata ad halom b'kriyasras kuntras hazeh. So the Piagetna says, if you've gotten to this point in this kuntras, in this booklet, v'roa ata sheta'isa l'makom shelo ratzisa. So listen to this. The Rebbe says, maybe you got to the end of the Sefer, and you say, you know what? This is not for me. This whole thing is a mistake. It's a mistake. Again, mostly you should just know, like, people sometimes learn things like this. Again, not everybody takes to it. Not everybody takes to it. So the Piaget says, so maybe you'll learn this, and ultimately, again, you'll find yourself saying, you know what, this is not for me. This is not for me. So listen to this. He says, Om im mipnei shechoshev ata osan lebal haziyah o lebat lonim. Listen to the Piaget says, maybe you'll think that the people of this Chaburah, Balazia means like they're people of like distorted vision, or they're batlonim. Batlonim. What does it mean, batlonim? I will say. I don't know what the good English word for a batlon is.
Should be the Ketsos.
Right. So in other words, the idea is, what are you doing? Open a Gemara. Sit down and learn. Stop with all of this fluffy, lofty stuff over here, right? Don't tell me about Shalosh Shudis, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the chariot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes through. Shalosh Shudis is tuna fish, it's egg salad, it's a couple of zmirs, and let's get on to Ma'ariv. Come on, let's go. There could be some person's going through this and they're saying, you know what, this is not for me. The Piaget, listen to this, it's incredible. Asay zos eva. Piaget says, so do me a favor. L'ma'ancha u'lema'anenu. Do something for your benefit and for our benefit. Va'azov ad mehera es chavarasenu. Get out. Get out. See, I want to point out what's beautiful about this. This is very un-Piagetz-like. Right? See, when you know what MS is, you don't have to be apologetic, nor do you have to go ahead and figure out how to package it in a way that's acceptable to people. MS is MS. The Piagetz says, I know that what we learned in this Sefer, this is absolute unequivocal MS. It doesn't speak to you. You don't like it. You don't agree with it. You think it's too lofty, too fluffy. You'd rather just do something more concrete. Okay, go for it. There are many approaches, many pathways to the Ribono Shel Olam. So at the end of the day, this is not for you, but this is incredible. But to be just do me a favor, get out and leave now. I'll say, why do you think he uses such a stark lashon like that? Why? Right? Because we'll say the power of this whole thing is the chevra. The power of the whole thing is the chevra, and that's why if someone's not bought in, Piagetz says that's okay. You're entitled to that. But then don't be part of the chevra. Because the other people who want to be brought in, and the other people who really want to go ahead and sink their neshama into this, and want to make this their life, their commitment is going to be eroded by your lack of commitment. I'll say, this is like a big thing. Like, I tell you something I always struggle with a little bit. One thing I always struggle with. I'm not going to tell you like the real deep dark things I struggle with. I'm just going to keep it light for the sake of this. And I'll say, when we're singing a niggin. So I'll tell you just like a personal thing that always drives me like a little bit like when people talk during a niggin.
I love you.
People talk during a niggin. A niggin is Kodesh Kadoshim. Rabbi Nachman says in last week's parasha, Rabbi Nachman says, as everybody likes this word, that ultimately again, so Yaakov Avinu says to the sons, this is before Yosef reveals his identity. So Yaakov says to Yosef, Kichu mizimras haaretz. So literally translated, it means take from the vines of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Nachman says that's not what it means. Kichu mizimras haaretz means take of the zmiras. Take of the nigunim, take of the song. A song, when you find a niggun that's kadosh, that's Eretz Yisrael. Right? All of us, what do I want more than anything? I just want to be in Eretz Yisrael. And as often as I go there, I just want to be in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe says that when you sing a niggun with all of your heart, you're in Eretz Yisrael. That's kichu mizimras haaretz. Take. So you know what happens? Chavra sitting together. We're singing a niggin, and again, people are talking. Now the truth is, I have a limud schus for it. It's the same limud schus why I've stopped shushing in shul on Shabbos. I used to be a real shusher. Like I thought it was like part of my sacred avodah. A couple number of years ago, I stopped shushing because I felt that, if after 120, the worst thing that you have to account for is that you loved other Jews so much that you spoke to them during Chazar Sashatz, Kriyas HaTorah, the rabbi's speech, the Misha Berachs, right? and Psuke de Zimra, then Kedusha Kaddish, right? Kel Moles, Yisker, Unisana Tokef, Tkiya Shover, right? Kol Midray, thank you, right? You know what? So if that's the worst thing, okay. I kind of think, you know what it's like? Sometimes, like when your kids are little, you ever have that moment where everybody's making noise at Kiddush, and like your reflexive reaction is like you want to do like a shh. And then you're like, they're having so much fun, right? They're just enjoying themselves, and they're just together. Okay, they probably should be a little bit quieter during Kiddush. They probably shouldn't be talking. But you know what? It's there's a niceness to it. So that's the limud schos that ultimately, again, I've had even back when we're singing a niggin. Okay, Jews like to be together. So if two Yidden are talking to each other, right? They're joking with each other, kibitzing a little bit with each other. They're talking, so okay, you know what? Baruch Hashem, Nafiyatoecha Kamocha. I will say, but it does, it takes away. It takes away. When the Chevra is trying to raise themselves to new heights with the niggin, and not everyone is involved, the experience is not the same. It's a difference between a chevra singing together and a concert, Right? In a concert, so what happens at the concert, right? The professional, the musician, whatever it is, right? The lights are very bright, so he can't see anyone. So it's just him, and that's it. He's doing his thing. You're participating, you're not participating. It doesn't really make any kind of difference. But when a chevra comes together and sings, the whole avoda is that we're doing it together. So if someone's not doing it, then l'maisa, again, it detracts. It does. We still move forward, but it detracts. But the Rebbe is saying there are certain things where you could kind of go ahead and deal with some of the side commotion. And then there are other things that are too important. There are other things that are too sacred. There are other things that are just too intense where it's got to be all hands on deck. That either you're in or you're not in. I was saying, I think to me, what the Piaget is describing over here is one of the hardest things about this avoda. And I will say, if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of times in life, in spirituality, we're not fully committed to the things that we do. We're somewhat committed. We could be very committed, right? Much committed, right? But we're not necessarily 100% in. But the Piaget is describing over here the entire process of being part of the Chaburah Bnai Machshava Tova. You're either 100% in or you are 100% out. There's no either I commit myself to this derech or not. And if you don't, it's okay, says the Piaget. Now, there are other drachim, but if you're going to be in, you have to be in. And I will say that's part of the success, right? It's part of the success of this, I'll call it program, that the Piaget is advancing for us. That if I'm in, I'm 100% in at all stages. He goes on. He says, you go back to whatever it is that you're doing, and the rest of the chevra, we're going to go back and greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so that's the Piaget says. We'll say page 59. Last page. Aval. Imroa ata shedarkenu darchecha. But the Piaget says, if you see this derech that we've outlined over here, I will say again, the essence of the derech, remember again, is to transform ourselves from servants to sons. From servants to sons. If that's the derech you're interested in. Ve'es asher chipasnu anu gam ata mechapes, and you're looking for the same things that we're looking for. Rak shelibcha nitke becha al shegam achar gmarcha es hakuntrus v'achar sheshanisu shalashto od eincha margish shebasa elamakom asher sham elokim. I want to tell you something. So a little bit of a confession over here. I dragged this out a little bit. I know. Right? And you knew it. You were thinking it the whole time. Say, you know what's scary about finishing the Sefer? What's scary about finishing the Sefer is, but I don't feel it yet. I don't feel it. The Piaget described how I'm supposed to feel if I internalize this process. I feel like I've been internalizing the process, but I don't yet feel what the Piaget is describing. Sometimes I feel it, I feel parts of it, but on a consistent basis, I'm not really feeling what's been described in this. I want to feel it, I yearn for it, but if I'm honest, I'm not feeling it yet. So the Rebbe says, sometimes a person becomes depressed. Why? I'm getting to the end of the Sefer, and maybe I've read it, I've learned it, I've reviewed it, I've done it a third time. And yet I don't feel closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do you do if you get to page 59? It's the end of the Sefer, and I've been here, and I've listened, and I've loved it, and I've internalized, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. So what do? He says, Lo re'iyah v'lo hargasha. I'm not yet looking at life differently. I don't yet feel differently about myself, about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lo machshava v'lo islavos. I'm not thinking differently. I'm not inspired differently. Sha'anu medabrim b'zematzasa. So all the things that we've discussed, okay, I understand them, and I want it, but I haven't felt it yet. Or maybe I've felt it like in bursts, but I haven't been able to feel it, to keep it with me on an ongoing basis. The Rebbe says, Al yipo ruchacha b'cha. Bach, don't get depressed. Don't get depressed. Zacharna Listen, this was how beautiful this is. Because remember, Kimina Aretz the Adler Akia Mahalich Chamesh Me'os Shanahu. This is such a beautiful line. The Piaget says, the journey from the earth until the heaven is 500 years. All right, not exact, right? He's making a point, right? The journey from the earth to the heavens is 500 years. V'lama ze'ata kasher lo higata shama b'kvitza achas kvar nafalta. So we'll say when we started this sefer, remember we started on the earth. And what's my goal? My goal is I want to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a 500-year journey. That's a long journey. So I've tried jumping a couple of times. I've tried moving myself a couple of times. I haven't made it there yet. You know what the Piaget says? It's okay. It's okay. But don't lose faith in yourself, and don't lose the hope, and don't lose the optimism, don't lose the excitement, just because you haven't reached the heavens yet. Why are you depressed? Because you haven't made it. We'll say, think about this for just a moment. It's true, it's taken us over a year to learn the Sefer, right? Probably a year and 3 months or so. But we'll say, again, once a week, not every week. So it's true. We've been immersed in this for a long time, and I know for me, like, there's part of me that was hoping that by the time I got to page 59, I'd be really different. And I'd feel really different. And my life would be different. But the truth is, at times it is, but it's not necessarily consistent. And that's the shtickle depressing. That's sad for me. That I'm reaching the end of this journey. But yet, when I started the journey, I had in mind, based on what the Piaget said, about the person I wanted to become. And I'm at the end of the journey, and I haven't become that person yet. The Piaget says, do not become depressed. This goes on, he says, B'tuchim anu b'Hashem, sha'acharei eiz zman avoda, masmedes kigonzu, we are confident, I will say, that after applying myself in a consistent fashion to this avoda, targish as zare or ha'elyon, ves kidushas Hashem shenichnesu b'nafshecha gufecha v'atzmosecha. Piaget says, we'll say, he's repeated the same thing over and over. Keep at it. Just keep at it. Keep trying. Keep doing. Keep internalizing. Keep actualizing. And then you know what will happen? The moment will come where after enough consistent reinforcement that ultimately you'll feel the great light. You'll feel the holiness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You'll feel it penetrate your soul, your body, and your bones. Ki al kol panim taschil lehisnaik hanhaga yosem mizuchacha v'tova b'chol inyane gufecha v'nafshecha. And you'll begin to see improvements in your behavior. You'll begin to see small improvements in how you're conducting yourself. You see, I will say, what the Piaget is saying over here is that sometimes we go ahead and we kind of create unfair expectations for ourselves, right? And we go ahead and we kind of begin a process and we think that by the end of the process, I'm going to be X, I'm going to be Y, I'm going to be this, and then I don't get there, and I'm crestfallen. And the Piaget says, okay, you didn't get there. But just because you didn't get there yet, it doesn't mean you can't get there. But if you keep at it, if you keep on it, if you reinforce, then the day will come when you feel the great light in your heart, in your body, and in your bones. And again, small changes begin to occur. Plus, I think many of us would agree that since we began to learn this, we think differently. We look at the world differently. There are different parts, whether it's hisbodedus, whether it's taking time to kind of internalize the lessons, whether it's like looking at Shalosh Shuddis differently, whether it's finally for the first time in my life understanding that my entire life goal is to stop connecting with God from a distance as an Eved and start connecting with Him in a most close, intimate way as a son. For so many of us, that was a light bulb that went off for the first time a year ago. And many of us are older. I don't mean old, but like advanced in years, that we should have kind of known this already, yet this is the first time I got it. So the Piaget says, just keep reinforcing, just keep doing, and the great light will come. He goes on, he says, Machshavosecha teschilena lachshov v'lios acheros me'asher adata. Continue to review and reinforce, and your thoughts will become different. Now I will say, the PhD is describing over here, often we are very focused on actional change, right? Behavioral change, which is incredibly important, because like the Sefer HaChinuch says, "Acharei ha'pu'ulos nimshachos halavavos," that ultimately, again, internal change is really impacted through external change. But the PhD also writes, but you know what? I've changed a lot of my behaviors, but you know what I really want to change at this point in my life more than anything? Are not my behaviors. I mean, I still want to change my behaviors. I want to change my thoughts. That's really what I want to change. I want to change like the way that I'm wired. I want to change the way that I look at the world. I want to change the way that I look at myself. I want to change the way that I look at other Jews. Those are the things I really want to work on. And the Piagetz says, keep reinforcing these lessons. And ultimately, your thoughts will begin to change and evolve. Continue to work this program, says the Piagetz, and ultimately, again, your tfilos will become more alive. Right? Your tfilos will become invigorated. Davening changes. I will say, it makes so much sense, because as I transition from being a servant to a son, the dialogue changes. Everything changes about it. He goes on, he says, Teida, eich l'shamish b'chomer nafshecha, shal simcha v'shal shviras halev, lahotzi al yadanis nafshecha likras doda, ulatara b'tari lar. It's such a beautiful line. Do you remember, again, also what the Piagetz is also doing is reviewing some of the major points. Do you remember one of the things the Piagetz said is the ability to capitalize on intensely emotional moments, right? Intense emotionality is a time when the soul is open. Remember, we spoke about this idea that the Piagetz said that one of the greatest challenges we have is that we're often walled off from our own soul. I'm walled off from my soul. You see it. I think it's one of the most profound distinctions between Eretz Yisrael and Galus. In Eretz Yisrael, there's a much easier ability to access the soul. The land is Kaddish, everything is Kaddish, Kedusha is everywhere. One of the challenges in Galus is that the same way, if you think about it, what is Galus? Galus is displacement. So we often think that Galus is just physical displacement. It's not just physical displacement, it's spiritual displacement as well. I'm exiled from my land. I'm exiled from my people. And there's a piece of it that I'm exiled from myself. So the Piagetz says, so often I'm walled off from my neshama. So what do? Piagetz said, when you have an intensely emotional moment, what happens? Now, by the way, what kind of intense emotion? Any kind of intense emotion. Happiness, sadness, it doesn't make a difference. If it's intense emotion, the soul is open. Remember what the Piagetz wrote about? He says, right, tap into that. Say a kapitel of Tehillim. Sing a niggin. Go into a corner and think about your life and think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and think about what you want to do. Ride that wave of emotion and get in touch with your soul. So the Piagetz says, Teida. So again, as we reinforce this process, we'll know how to use intense emotionality. Eich l'shamish, how to utilize. B'chol ma'orei nafshecha, to use all of the events of the soul, whether it's simcha or broken heart or heartbreak, l'hotzi al yadanis nafshecha, in order to go ahead and literally allow my soul to emerge, likras doda, to greet my beloved. My beloved, of course, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, u'letara b'tara ilah. So I will say, this is all part of the process. Tilamed, eich l'istakil b'chol mitzvah istaklos hanefesh. We'll say, if you remember again, he'll say, we saw one of the things that Piagetz spoke about was the idea that mitzvahs, all too often we look at just as simple behavioral or mechanistic acts, without looking at the deeper level of spirituality within a mitzvah. Over time, says the Piagetz, you'll begin to see the deeper level in mitzvahs. Tiske al kol panim ma'at l'mesiras hanefesh b'kriyas shema b'chol gufcha v'nafshecha. Slowly but surely, your shema will change. And when you say v'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, love HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol ma'odecha, with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of everything you are, slowly but surely you'll actually begin to feel that. Ubazek kavar nis'alis ma'at le'ish haruach. And even in these small steps, as the Piagetz, you are becoming a holy person. V'az taschil gam re'iyah ilah lisnotzeis b'cha. You'll begin to see the world in a different way. Right? You'll begin to see yourself in a different way. Liro says, Kidushas hahider no'aziv ha'olam b'chol davar. You'll begin to see the holiness in every single thing. The holiness in every single thing. Ri'iyos halalu ki'im mitzaros tiena bereshisan. Ultimately, again, he says that often this type of heightened vision will especially come in difficult times, in times of heartbreak. You'll be able to see beauty in the midst of heartbreak. I will say, are we not living in times like that, where we have so much heartbreak, but there is so much beauty, so much kedusha that you see in the saddest and most heartbreaking of moments? Ultimately, again, that ability to see kedusha in everything will become more and more intense. The sof kol sof. Listen to this. So I'll say, look what he. So look at that Piaget lens, and at the end, the sof kol sof, and at the end of everything, lo tishaer ish sada. You don't just have to be an ish sada. We'll say, what's an ish sada? Ish sada literally means what? A man of the field. But how is the Piaget using it? Man of the field. You don't just have to be an earthly person. Right? You don't just have to be a person that's tethered to the field, right? You don't have to just be a physical, material being. Rak ben olam haba, gam ba'odcha ba'olam hazeh. We'll say, listen to those words. The Piaget says, you know what you could become? You could become a person who is living in the world to come while having both feet firmly planted in this world. And they'll say, what an aspiration. I want to be, but I'll just tell you something, brother, just on that concept, quickly on that concept. You know, there's a beautiful idea about this concept of experiencing Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh. So there's a Gemara, very, very difficult Gemara. The Gemara says, Dor HaMidbar, Ein Lehem Chelik Olam Haba. The generation of the desert, they don't have a portion in the world to come. So if you're a misnagid, so okay, you're right. Yeah, look what they did. They built the golden calf, they sent the meraglim, they sent the spies. So the generation of the desert has no portion of the world to come. Our other Rebbe, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, Zechusa Yagin Aleinu. So the Rebbe sees this Gemara, and he cannot live with that. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Berditchev could not accept the premise that there's a Yid who doesn't have an Olam Haba. What does it mean, a Yid who doesn't have an Olam Haba? Every Jew has so much Kedusha. Every Jew has so much holiness. How could there be a Yid who doesn't have Olam Haba? So Rebbe says, Rebbe, it says, Dor HaMidbar Ein Lehem Chelik Olam Haba. So Rebbe Levi says, let me tell you what it means. What it means is like this. Normally, in order to experience Olam Haba, what has to happen? So what has to happen? You have to die. But there are some people who get to experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu in such an incredible form that they get to experience Olam Haba in Olam Hazeh. The Rebbe says that's what it means. Dor HaMidbar, the generation of the desert, they stood by Har Sinai. They saw the Ribono Shel Olam. They experienced HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They saw the splitting of the sea. They saw Kiviyachal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They experienced HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rebbe says that's what it means. Dor HaMidbar Ein Lehem Chelik Olam Haba doesn't mean they don't have a portion of the world to come. It means the generation of the desert didn't have to wait to die in order to go ahead and have their portion of the world to come. They experienced their world to come in this world. Incredible. And I will say, if you're thinking to yourself, come on, that's not the pshat. That's because you don't love Jews the way Rav Levi Yitzchak loves Jews. See, when you love Jews, when you love Klal Yisrael, you cannot accept a Gemara like that at, what's the phrase? Face value. There has to be an alternate. My point just to you is, there is this model in Chassidus, ultimately again, of experiencing Olam Haba in Olam Hazeh. The Piaget says, if you stick with this, if you stick with it, even if you're not feeling it right now, and maybe you haven't even felt it at all over the course of any of these pages, Piaget says, learn it, relearn it, reinforce it, and review it. And you'll begin to feel it. You'll begin to feel it in your neshama. You'll begin to access emotionality. You'll begin to feel like a son and not a servant. You'll begin to look at the world differently, look at yourself differently. You'll feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu differently. And before you know it, you will be the kind of person who is able to experience the world to come while having both feet planted in Olam Hazeh. That's the haftacha. That's the promise the Piazetzna makes to us, as long as we are willing to stick with it. And I'll say the Rebbe ends, Chazak v'nis chazek Hashem itanu. Incredible. It's literally again, be strong. Right? Chazak, be strong. V'nis chazek, let us be girded with additional strength, because the Ribono Shel Olam is always with us. Chavra, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. What a schus we've had to learn with the Rebbe all of these months, a year plus, right? What a schus we've had, Baruch Hashem, to bring in Erev Shabbos with the Piazetzna each and every week. And I will say, what a schus it should be for us, for our families, for Klal Yisrael, to be able to learn these holy words, internalize these holy words. Then I will say we have to see what we want to do next. So there's a couple of different possibilities. Possibility one is we can go back to page 1. Right? We can go back to page 1. And just the Meretz Hashem learn again, this time with a little more homework, a little more assignments. We could do that again. Or we could go, or we can go to Chovas HaTalmidim, another sefer of the Piazetzna, which I was actually going to do with you a piece tonight, but somehow we ran out of time. But I did finish. And I will say, but okay, so maybe I'll, having big fan of Google, of WhatsApp polls, I might, I'll put out some options and then probably ignore the results and just do what I want anyway. So, but at least I'll give it. I know. But at least I'll provide the illusion of a choice. I will say, but just understand, just understand what we've done, not just for ourselves. I will say, and then we're going down mine, not just for ourselves, but like, I will say, to me, I feel so close to the Piazetzna. Because the Rebbe lost everything. He lost his son, he lost his daughter-in-law, he lost his daughter, he lost his parents, he lost everything. His children did not survive the war. The Rebbe didn't survive the war. He lost everything. And sometimes you think about like great people who died al Kiddush Hashem, and there's not a remnant of them that's left. And then you look at what we do here on Thursday nights, and you recognize that we are the continuity of the Piazetzna. What a schus, what a privilege that we have to be. We are the Rebbe's Chassidim. We are the Rebbe's continuity. We give him eternality. So that when we sit here every single Thursday night and we sing and we make a l'chaim and we learn, I guarantee you that the Piazetzna is sitting up in Shamayim and he calls over his children. Olam Haba. And he says, look, my beautiful children, look down, because here are my other children. And the children Olam Haba and the children Olam Hazeh all get together to learn the Torah of the Father, to learn the Torah of the Piazetzna. So I will say an incredible, overwhelming, and schus to take this journey together. A schus to become a chassid of the Piazetzna, to provide our Rebbe's neshama with an aliyah, and halavai in the schus of learning this Torah and internalizing this Torah, should be Zocha Meretz Hashem, to no longer just simply have our souls and heads in Olam Haba, but our feet here, but rather everything should just go to Olam Haba. In the schus of the aliyah from the Sefer, Mashiach should come, Geula should come, there should be Tchias HaMesim, and halavai we should be Zocha Meretz Hashem, all of Klal Yisrael, to learn this beautiful Torah together in Yerushalayim, in a rebuilt third Beis HaMikdash here, Rabbi Yameinu. Amen. Shkayach Elosai, Shkayach. Ein Olam Haba. Shkayach Chavra. Ma'ariv in the shul. Mazel Tov.
It challenged the Sefer